Dear students, I am Dr. Aruna Mohan from Delhi University, and we are in the process of discussing the skeletal system. We have discussed about forelimb bones and the pectoral girdle, skull, vertebral column and the rib cage. One more time I am showing you the skeleton, the full skeleton, to show you the position of hind limb and pectoral girdle, which we have discussed in the previous session. In this slide, you see the one which is showing the dorsal side, that is the back side. You can see pectoral girdles near shoulder very clearly, and also you can see the attachment of arm or hand to the pectoral girdle, and where it is attaching, the humerus attaching to pectoral girdle, that is glenoid cavity. You can also see how the humerus is present in the upper part of the arm. You can see the radius and the ulna, and of course carpals, metacarpals and phalanges. So, this is the area, the pectoral girdle and the forelimbs, which we have discussed. Now, in this session we are going to start our discussion with bones of hind limb, that is leg, and of course the girdle called pelvic girdle. Coming to hind limb bones, that is leg bones. In the thigh area there is a bone, one bone called femur. This is supposed to be the bigger and heaviest and the weight bearing bone in our body, and again very important. Then after knee we have two bones, namely tibia and fibula. Fibula is called fibula because it is feeble compared to tibia, which is strong. Like our forelimb, here also tibia, the strong one, is towards the toe or thumb of the leg, and fibula is towards the little toe or little finger of the leg. So, two bones are present between knee and the ankle, and then comes the tarsals, metatarsals and digits. Like in hand you have seen, similar way it will come here also, and same number of bones. So, total is again 30. This is hind limb, which is helping us in walk, do many things, and also weight bearing part of the body. Now, this one is attached to the girdle called pelvic girdle. There are joints like knee, which is very important for movement, and there is any problem in the knee, you can very well imagine that even walking becomes difficult. So, taking care of our bones and our joints is very important in terms of the life we lead and in terms of diet we eat. I now come to pelvic girdle. Pelvic girdle gives articulation to hind limbs. We know hind limbs are so important, our legs are so important. They are doing variety of things for us, but they are being held in position by pelvic girdle. Pelvic girdle, which is present in pelvic area, is having ilium, ischium, pubis and a cavity called acetabulum. Before I go into details of this particular slide, let me show you its position in the skeleton. Once again I am showing you full view of skeletal system, and the one which is showing the dorsal view, that is your back side. You can see the pelvic area which shows pelvic girdle. In the pelvic girdle there are three bones, ilium, ischium and pubis, which together make one bigger bone called coxa, and there is a cavity called acetabulum. Like the one we had in pectoral, glenoid cavity, in place of glenoid we have acetabulum in pelvic girdle, in which will fix head of femur and make a joint. So, this is how the leg is attached to the pelvic girdle. The head of femur is attached with the acetabulum of pelvic girdle. At this point of time, I would like to draw your attention on one more point. In this diagram, you can easily see one bone called pubis, ilium, ischium and pubis. Pubis makes the pubic area between the thighs where genitalia is present. This bone is very small, very delicate, and if there is fracture of this bone by any reason, then total genitalia, total area of the movement, pelvic girdle and the hind limbs are affected. Though this is very small sized bone, but it will result into many problems if it does not work properly. So, pubis is in the pubic region and takes control of that area. The knee joint takes control of movement of the legs, and of course, the carpal tarsals and metatarsals, they take control of movement of feet. And there are 30 bones, small bones in the feet area which will allow proper and smooth movement while walking. This is closer view of pelvic girdle. We can see two halves. These are identical halves like we had in pectoral girdle also, right half and the left half. The right half will give articulation to right leg and left half will give articulation to left leg. You can clearly see the three bones, ilium, ischium and pubis. Pubic area is very clear here, and you can see the arrangement of the bones. One more point which I want to tell you here, children, the pubic bone is rather soft bone or little bit cartilaginous in nature, which is for some reason which we may discuss in some other session. With this, I have explained you the hind limb bones and its articulation with pelvic girdle. Now, point which comes in our mind, we have so many bones, hand bones, leg bones, vertebral column, rib cage, cranium, neck bones, so many bones are there in the body. How do we move them? Suppose they were nicely connected to each other, firmly connected to each other, then our body could not move anywhere. Of course, our body would have been stable because of muscles and bones, but we could not move it. We are discussing about a skeletal system, we have discussed about bones, we have 206 bones in our body and we have some idea about their arrangement in our body by now. Now try to think, how do we move these bones? We know where they are present. We know we move our hands, our legs, our neck, little bit our back also. How do we move? Suppose we were not able to move the bones, then what was the value of having this big system in our body? Only strength and the shape? No, we want to make use of these bones, these muscles and these organs. We have discussed about leg bone and the pelvic girdle, and earlier we discussed pectoral girdle, forelimbs, skull, vertebral column, etc. After knowing all the bones and their placement in our body, we must also think about how do we move them. If we were not able to move the bones, then could we use our hand, could we use our leg or neck? Perhaps not. So, movement of bones is important, and how is it achieved? We have joints. Presence of joints in specific areas for a specific purpose is significant. Because of joints, we are able to move bigger bones, smaller bones, different parts of our body. Joint can be between two bones, that is bone to bone. It can be bone to cartilage. It can be muscle to bone. At this point of time, children, I would like to remind you that our systems are interlinked. We know our skeletal system can work properly only if muscles are also attached with it, and then nervous stimulation is also required, that is nervous system is also coming into picture, and of course, blood supply, oxygen, glucose, etc. In the skeletal system, the muscle system is important and nervous system is also important. Whenever there is any movement, it comes from muscle to joint, and from joint it goes to bone, and then the bone moves. If I say bone moves, I mean the area in which that particular bone is kept moves. Suppose I want to move my hand like this, then this stimulus came from nervous system to the muscles of my hand, and from muscles it went to the joint, and from joint it went to the bone, and I was able to use my hand moving bone and the muscle. That means the joints are important. You have heard about ligaments and tendons. Ligament is a connection of bone to bone. Ligament will connect one bone to other bone, and tendon will connect one bone to one muscle. Whatever the case is, these joints become very important, and now we shall discuss how our joints function and how many types of joints we have in our body and which area. They are joining two bones end to end in a form of a suture. You can see in this slide the diagram of skull, and you can see wavy line on the cranium. You remember the cranium is made up of 8 bones, and these 8 bones are attached to each other by sutures. Those sutures which are shown here as wavy lines are fibrous joints end to end. That means this joint is joining 2 bones, but will not allow any movement because it is end to end. Then why they are present? Suppose cranium was not having 8 bones, it was having one round bone. That was not possible. One such a big round bone of head size is not possible. It will not have stability. For that we have to give gaps, and those gaps are given by these sutures. So, there are so many bones, say 8 in number, and they are connected to each other by fibrous joint in the form of sutures. So, it gives proper shape and holding and stability to that area. So, these are fibrous joints. In short, fibrous joints will not allow any movement, and they are like sutures, and they are present in cranium. The second one is cartilaginous joint. When 2 bones are joined with little bit of cartilage, that is cartilaginous joint. We have discussed about vertebra in vertebral column. We discussed that there are 26 vertebrae in the vertebral column. They are arranged one after another. How? They are separate bodies. How they are placed in the backbone from neck up to the coccygeal area. They are not left free in that area. They are connected to each other by little bit of cartilage, which is called cartilaginous joint. It will allow little bit of movement, not much, but yes, little bit of movement. That is why we are able to turn our back right and left little, but we cannot turn it too much like our hand or leg. So, this is cartilaginous joint. Then there is synovial joint. Between 2 bones, there is synovial cavity filled with fluid, little bit of fluid, and it allows lot of movement. I can give you example. When humerus of hand is fixed in glenoid cavity of pectoral girdle, that is synovial joint, and it is also known as ball and socket joint, because humerus head is ball and glenoid cavity is socket, in which this head moves and friction does not come into picture because there is little synovial fluid. These joints allow maximum movement. You also find this joint when femur of the leg fixes with acetabulum cavity of pelvic girdle, where femur head is head and acetabulum is socket. I would like to show you these joints in the skeletal system. In this slide of skeletal system, you can see the humerus, head of humerus fixed to glenoid cavity and head of femur fixed to acetabulum. These are ball and socket joints. Also you can see a joint near atlas and axis vertebra, that is first vertebra of vertebral column and second. That is also a joint which is called pivot joint. Then we have gliding joint in carpals and metacarpals. So, these are the kind of joints which are found in our body. So, dear students, in today's session we have discussed about hind limbs, the bones in our legs, the pelvic girdle, the articulation of hind limb with pelvic girdle, different parts of pelvic girdle and importance of pubic bone in the body. Also we discussed about movement of skeletal system in terms of joints, different types of joints, where they are present in the body, how they help in the movement. We have discussed these points in detail. Also at this point of time, I should tell you there are certain disorders associated with skeletal system like arthritis, gout, osteoporosis. Certain ailments also involve musculature and the muscle system like myasthenia gravis and muscle dystrophy. With this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you.